üks teekond paremini kontrollitud, paremini toimivate hooneteni, kui me räägime masinloetavatest informatsioonimudelitest hoone elukaarel. Seda me hakkamegi nüüd tegema. Norra kogemus ja näide. Norra kinnisvara haldav ettevõtte Statsbygg on andnud meile täna oma masinloetavate informatsioonimudelite teema spetsialisti Steen Suneseni. Palun.
Hello everyone, my name is Steen Sunesen from Statsbygg. I'm going to give you a brief presentation about Statsbygg's approach to information in building lifecycle, and we will focus on BIM information modeling, BIM. So I will start my presentation. Statsbygg is a governmental body. We are quite a large organization with above 800 people, and we are managing more than 2,000 buildings. We provide workspaces for other governmental bodies, especially buildings that are not usually available in the commercial market, like office spaces. So it's police stations, opera buildings, embassies, and so on. We are representing the entire life cycle, both of constructions and also the information about constructions, and that is, of course, the focus of my presentation here. I myself, I'm an architect, but I've specialized in information management and digital information management. I'm the leader of Statsbygg's BIM-grupi. I'm also project manager of what we call Simpa, which is our BIM requirement and implementing those in projects and building operation. I'm also convener of a Norwegian standardization committee for the series of BIM standards. Recently, I've also been a task group leader in the SEN task group for developing guidance to how to bind BIM requirements to contracts according to ISO 19650. Earlier on, some years back, I was the managing director of Building Smart Norway. So the business case for using BIM for us, and I would like to start with showing you what is a BIM for those of you who may not be acquainted with the term. A BIM is an object model, it's a process using models like you're seeing on the screen, and those models consist of objects that are machine interpretable. Machines understand what they are, and you can also attach information like you see here, naming and properties to, for example, this wall that is highlighted with the green color here. So basically, we are modeling building before we build them and are able to do a lot of analysis and so forth. Some of the gains that we see in our uses, and those are just four out of many examples, is that it improves the quality of the decision process. We, as a client organization, have a better overview of the consequences of our decisions. We're using it for example, estimating cost, life cycle assessment and calculation, calculating greenhouse gas emissions, and so on. So we can do it on a pretty precise level. And the strength about using models is that, for example, quantities and control of types, object systems is managed very well. It also gives us a benefit to make it possible to streamline information management to, for example, construction site. So construction site is already also, they always have updated information, and they have a better understanding what they are about to do and build on the construction site. And of course, we have plans, and actually we are implementing systems now to use BIM also in building operation and facility management as well. When we look at the Norwegian industry has, for some years back, developed a report where they adopted the UK government's goals to reduce cost and greenhouse gas emissions and also project execution time by digitalizing fully the building industry. Now, digitalizing is not just BIM, but BIM is an important part of this. We may not be achieving exact those numbers, but those are some very ambitious goals, and we're working to achieve them over time. So you see, digitalization in itself will have the potential to reduce cost and speed of production time. And in order to achieve the benefits of those, we need to digitize those processes that has the highest turnover of cost and emissions, and those are construction and operation. We have been using and requiring BIM for quite some years in Statsbygg, but it's very much focused on design. That's quite natural because it is in the design stage that you are creating the information that you are using in the construction and operation. But now we need to move that information into the construction. A lot of contractors have actually done a lot of work here, are starting to be very digital, but we as a client has to make sure that information is much more standardized. So information from design and construction can be used in a standardized way during operation, because we need to be able to operate our constructions across all projects, so it has a uniform information structure. That is especially important when you look at the concept for digital twin. You're probably familiar with that term, and in our approach to the digital twin concept for building operation, it means that people operating and facilitating the constructions, they have to be able to utilize information such as BIM, but without being BIM experts. They have to be able to reach out and get that information they need from their own applications. So we need to link a lot of applications together, and in order to do that, we need to be standardized. We have also had some reports pointing in that direction. Those are actually quite conservative estimates, that we have the potential to save 7.5 million annually just in Statsbygg on building operation through to increased innovation, improved quality, and also cost efficiency by being more digital. So those are the business cases and why we're doing this. So we have some strategic goals that that we are going to achieve in the future. Now, a little bit about Simpa, what we call a solution to our challenges. And what are our challenges? When we look back from when we started to require modeling in all our projects in 2011, and until what we have received in 2018, some years back, we saw that actually only a third of all the projects that were required to deliver models delivered something, one model or more. And it was actually just less than 10% who had actually delivered all models for our archiving and use in building operation from all the 4 domains that we required from. And none of them were according to our information standards. So this is a problem for us. So we cannot really use all those models in building operation without we have to do a lot of alteration and checking and clearing. And it's a lot of cost. So our conclusion were that requirements shall be unambiguous. There should be no doubt what we require. And it should also be much easier to follow up and make sure in the projects that you actually are delivering on our requirements. So the solution is that we need to be much more specific, down to object level, and also we need to be able to automatically check all models. And that is actually what Simpa is, and Simpa is not the fellow on the right. It's not a distance character in this case. It's an anagram of Statsbygg, information modeling, building an asset. And Simpa is, most of all, it's an information standard. That means that information shall be able to be used across all project stages and all projects. And it should create predictability in the industry. So the industry, whomever is providing information for us, know what is expected from them. Then it's also actually a standardized BIM requirement set based on the information standard. And that, since it's standardized between the project, it means that we also have central learning in the organization based on the experiences, how it is worked in the projects. Then it's the automatic model checking. I'm going to show you a brief example of that. And then, of course, and I'm going to speak about that in the end of the presentation, about it's all based on open standards. It's very important for us that we have a robust solution that will stand over time. So we try to be as harmonized with other Norwegian and also possibly international clients and owners, and all based on open standards that we have an impact on ourselves. So a little bit about how the Simpa tools actually can improve information quality. This is about just the process, so you understand how we're working with Simpa in a project. We have the Simpa Statsbygg requirement in a database. And when we establish a project, we make a copy of that database. The database is provided by a German company called AC3, and then it will be project specific. And you can read out, export a report that is human readable in PDF. So the architects, engineers, they know what is required from them, and then can develop their models and their design in their proprietary softwares and export an IFC file. And what is special about this requirement database is it also export something we call an MVD XML file, which is in the Building Smart family of standards. And the normal user doesn't really have to think about all these formats. It's just a file type that actually describes the requirement. And then we have, together with DataCubist in Finland, developed a user interface in SimpleBIM, and likewise with another project in a Norwegian company called NTI, a solution called Pillar, where we have developed a MVD XML interface. You can read the IFC file and check it according to the MVD XML requirements. And all deviations that are found can be reported back using also open standard BIM collaboration format directly into the authoring tools from the architects and engineers. And with a bit of training, the point is that the architect and engineers should actually run this process by themselves. So we as a client actually should just receive accepted and correct BIM deliverables. And this is just an example of how it is done. You start with loading in your IFC file, then you open the MVD XML plugin. It's available for everyone who has a simple BIM license. And there's a bit of a setup that you download the right MVD XML requirement. If you have more than one stage in the requirement, you say which one it is, and then you actually just run the requirement, and you get an overview of all the deviation, also everything that is correct. The upper is the overview on object classes, and the lower is a more detailed report on property level. So you can really give very good insight. And it's possible to just log into your, in this case, BIM Collab, and just export the report as it is, or make edits in the BCF report directly to the architects and engineers. So this is actually a quite good workflow that we have trained our architects, engineers in our projects. And since we started using this in January 1st, it's been quite successful. So it seemed easier to use for many. And we see from many projects that the standardized requirement and methodology for following up and checking gives better structured models, which again also improve the quality of the collaboration between the disciplines in the projects. So we have some experts helping the projects doing this, but actually the projects in many cases are capable of doing this by themselves. However, having said that, even though that we have Simpa, we still struggle with varying level of information quality. Either information is directly missing, is not still not according to our information standards. So it's not really because they don't know what to do or they don't know what the requirements are, but there are some main reasons. And some of them is due to there still is, among some companies, relatively low competence among architects and engineers in order how to work with information in standardized structure. They are still very skilled architects and engineers, but this way of working is new to them. So this will still need some training in the industry to get to the right level. We also see some struggle with some softwares do not support, especially IFC exports, very good. And we have a very good dialogue with the local providers of software. We're trying to make them support our requirements, but this will take time. Then we also see that actually the project managers and design team managers from Statsbygg, they do not always prioritize BIM requirements among the many other tasks that the project should do. And that is simply because there are so many requirements on environmental requirements, operational requirements, health and safety issues, and so on. More and more requirements shall be delivered by the projects, and the budget for the building projects are not going up. So they need to prioritize as well. So what we're trying here is the next step for us will be to make the project managers and design team managers start using BIM themselves, improving their capabilities as decision makers. So they will start to look at BIM not just as a risk and an extra cost, but actually as an asset. And one of the other reasons is that, yes, we have a very good and unambiguous description of what we are requiring, but how they are bound to the contract may not be very good. We actually, until recently, did not have a very good methodology to bind the Simpa requirement or the BIM requirement to our contract. So what we see is that requirements has to be specific in the contract. They has to be understood and agreed by all the project's actors. So that's why we recently started procuring and implemented the ISO 19650 Part 2 based on the guidance from the technical report in CEN 17654. And it's relatively easy. Usually the BIM requirement was actually something you started detailing after the appointment with an architect, engineer, or design group, or a turnkey contractor was made. Now it's actually going to be part of the tendering process. So what we've done here is simply that we have made some guidance to how to use these 3 templates, and then we made a template, and one of them is for our project managers to fill out. Most of it is actually filled out because Simpa is a standard, so we've done it for them, so they just have to go over it and look at it. If it looks good, that it describes our requirements on an overall level, and then we send them to the potential what we call lead appointed parties, those who are responsible for the potential contract, and then just have to fill in who is going to deliver, and are they going to deliver on our requirements? And if not, we want to know. It and maybe even explain it. And then we find who is going to be our appointed parties, the architect, engineer, which group is going to work for us. We agree on the BIM execution plan based on the tender response, and also add some more information about model details like common origo, story heights, and so on. So I think this will help us making contractual and agreement level binding the contracts with the Simpa requirement. So this is relatively new for us. We had to go through a lot of documents. The upper box point, the one Statsbygg information requirement documents, we had to go through all of them, and many of them said something about BIM because we've been using required BIM for some years. And now they all have a standard text, all referring to the BIM requirement document, the box number 2. which are the guidance and those 3 templates I just showed you, all pointing again to the specific requirements in Simpa. As I said, it's quite new to us, so we don't really know what to expect from this. We're developing our experience based on it, but so far it looks relatively good. Finally, I'm going to give you a bit about information on how we have come so far and how we are working also in the future. We are collaborating broadly with the industry, with other client and owners, but also architects, engineers and contractors, and of course with standardization. And in order to do that, standards and open formats are key. So we're just going through a few slides about why we are so dedicated and committed to open standards. We believe in free competition, and we will not favor any consultants, architects, engineers based on their software. It also goes with which kind of software we are using or using in projects. We are quite agnostic to what kind of software you're using, as long as it can deliver on open formats such as IFC for buildings. Many of those smaller companies, they're not so small anymore, actually. Many of them that you see examples on here, on software companies, they all started based on IFC. And many of them, they do have some plugins for specific software today, but I would say that they wouldn't be in the position they are today if it would not be for their services and focus on open standards. And we very much appreciate that. When we have open formats such as IFC, it makes it possible for us to express our requirement in just one format. We don't have to be experts on all kind of different proprietary formats, and we don't have to provide specific guidance on how they're doing that. That's up to the architects, engineers, and contractors. If they choose a tool, it's up to them to make it work and deliver on our requirements. And since we just have one expression of our requirements, it's much easier for us also to collaborate and harmonize our requirements with other clients and owners. And you have some example here. 2 other very large governmental bodies that are the Norwegian Railway client and owner. They have more than railway. They also have a lot of buildings, station buildings, for example. And then the hospital builder, which is the large client for hospitals in entire Norway. Those are very close collaboration with us about information standards, and we try to agree upon most of other things. And then we recently established a user group in Building Smart Norway, including many more clients and owners. So we try to broaden up the collaboration with many others, both public, municipality, and also private client and owners. That's very interesting for us. One of the positive things about the IFC format, you may not be acquainted with that, but IFC format is not updated every year as many proprietary softwares are. The last version was established in like 2010, is just being replaced now by the next version, IFC 4. And that actually makes it very suitable as a long-term storage format. We have to be able to use and maintain the information about buildings for the next like 50 to 100 years. And it's a lot of struggle to be that we have to update all proprietary softwares every year. So it's much easier to maybe just update it every 5 or 10 years. That being said, IFC does not still have the abilities to, you can take an IFC file and make some changes in geometry. So we still need the proprietary formats. And that is the development we need to look into and contribute to in Building Smart to make sure that IFC actually can stand alone as a storage format. And also the Building Smart community and standardization community and OGC for the GIS standards. They are transparent communities. They are democratic. We can participate in them, bring in input from our needs. And that is one of the reasons why we have committed ourselves both to support Building Smart in Norway and internationally. So all this bound together, this is my last slide, showing how we are actually working together with the association, the trade association for the architects, for the engineers, the contractors. We work together with Building Smart nationally and internationally. We work together with other clients and owners, and actually a lot of other companies, as well as we are also quite involved in what's going on in standardization community, both nationally and internationally, and that's very important for us. So a brief summary: BIM is an integrated part of the project execution and building operation in Statsbygg. Statsbygg, we have developed detailed standardized BIM requirements that are important for us, so architects, engineers, and contractors know what to deliver to us. We have also developed a solution for automatic model checking that shall make sure that we actually are getting the information that we need and we require. And we also now have developed a methodology, also based on a standard, international standard, to bind the BIM requirements to the contracts. All our contracts is, as I said, based on open standards and common agreements, so they are robust and can stand over time. And we are committed to develop all this in collaboration with the industry and the Building Smart community and the standardization community. Many thanks for your attention.